Okay, today's interview is gonna be heavy, and that's the best word I can use to describe the conversation we're about to have. This is a guy who I have actually read about and saw interviews long before we had a chance to sit and have a conversation. And it's just one of those crazy things because I've been wanting to talk to this gentleman, like literally been because he's such a fascinating human being. And I'm so intrigued by his life. And I'm so intrigued by the idea of there are people out there that are willing to do things that most human beings, not just Americans, but human beings could not even conceive just to keep us safe. Please welcome former Army Ranger, the first black sniper in the Army 3rd Battalion, Sergeant Nick Irving. Sergeant Nick Irving, welcome to Vlad TV, man.
Hey, I appreciate you for having me on. Definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I was trying to find the words even as I was introducing you because your story is incredibly fascinating. It really, really is. And even as I look at you, you're composed. You look as though you never spent one day overseas. You're not what we would expect for a man that has 33 confirmed kills as a sniper. And I'd say just about as many that are unconfirmed, but you were a machine gunners. Before we get deep into your story, is this just who you are? Are you naturally this poised?
To be honest with you, I just became this way within the past, I would say 5 years, maybe. Actually, 6 years after the birth of my son. Kind of, switched up my whole personality. It was like I didn't mean to do it, but I was forced into that position to become more of a dad figure as opposed to being the guy who I used to be, a hothead, short temper. And I think that came from, 6 deployments, doing a bunch of different things. And you come back here and I just knew what I was capable of doing. I grew up as, I was being bullied as a kid throughout all high school. And after my first deployment, and shooting somebody, I remember telling myself I was 18 years old and I was like, I'll never get bullied again. And it just kind of upped that, I guess, that persona in me, that beast in me, that animalistic, primal behavior that I had of being, to have the job that I had, you had to be a savage. And coming back here to the States it wasn't, conducive to the environment stateside, being that character. So after the birth of my son, I was kind of forced into simmering down a little bit, settling down and calming down. I couldn't be that way. It was a hard character. And we all have characters at the end of the day. We're all portraying somebody, even if it's who we think we are, we're portraying that person. So to be able to switch up, change characters, it's, we're all actors in this big game, this big stage, of life. So it was just something I had to do for the, betterment of my family.
Okay, you talked about being bullied when you were young. Talk to me about your family and your upbringing.
Yeah.
Were your parents disciplinarians? I know that you are a former Army Ranger. Were your parents in the service?
Yeah, definitely. My mom and dad. I was actually born overseas in Augsburg, Germany. My parents both were in the Army. They were doing counterintelligence stuff back in the Cold War, fighting against the Soviets with technology and copying Morse code and stuff like that, intercepting different, I don't know what they were doing. They still say it was top secret or whatnot, but I grew up there and it was like a dream of mine to, want to be like my dad. That was all I saw was Army uniform and him being proud of his service. And I just wanted to follow along those footsteps, but I was not too smart to be like a computer guy. But I knew I wanted to follow along those lines and be in the military, definitely.
Wow. Counterintelligence. So your parents are pretty intelligent. Obviously, they're very smart people. Did you follow in their footsteps? Did you graduate with a high GPA?
No, I graduated with the 1.7 GPA.
Excuse me?
1.7. I was
Both
terrible.
parents are counterintelligence and you graduated with a 1.7?
Oh yeah. It was a hard childhood. It was a lot of disciplinary actions, a lot of punishment, suspensions from school. I got into a lot of, confrontations and fights in school. And I didn't try to be a bad kid, but it was just the people I hung around and the people who were around me at the school and where I grew up at. I just wanted to kind of fit in with the crowd, I guess. And it kind of worked in my favor, but not so much. I was not really built for that. I didn't find out that part of me until I joined the Army. But as far as school goes, no, I was taking like fundamentals of math. My senior year, I barely graduated. I was supposed to get like my diploma mailed to me. I wasn't going to walk across the stage, and it was like a toss in the air if I was going to even graduate or not. So my parents had a hard time with that. And it was by choice, I think. Like I could have done better, but to be the nerd was like, I was tired of getting, picked on already. So I might as well just put the work to the side. And my mom used to make me sleep with my books underneath my pillow to obtain the knowledge at night. So she thought that
Are
was
you
like,
serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. Oh yeah.
Okay, who's the disciplinarian in your family, mom or dad?
My dad, definitely my dad. He didn't talk much. He still doesn't talk much, but when it came to discipline, I feared him. Oh yeah. He was a scary guy.
Religion.
Christian.
Christian?
Oh yeah. They were
So you grew up going to church?
Every Sunday, during the week, Sunday school, Bible services. I was sitting in the front row at church. My mom, she was doing she was like a sign language interpreter. She's hard of hearing. So I would have to sit up in the front with her, and so she could get like the sign language stuff, and she would teach us sign language, and we were, always in the church. It was not for me. I never liked it.
Well, most kids don't. Typically, as you get older, you find your way back.
Oh yeah,
to the church in one way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay. You grow up, two parents in the military. You know from a young age, this is what I want to do.
Oh yeah, I was before the age of 10, I was like definitive on what I wanted to do. Elementary school, I was already telling my teachers I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. That was what I originally wanted to be, was a Navy SEAL. So my entire, school career, I went about thinking I was going to be a Navy SEAL guy. I would swim, go out to the beach, do beach runs, swimming, 1-2 miles. I had some former Green Beret guy train me up on how to swim. I was scuba qualified at 15. So that was like the path that I wanted to go on. But I'm colorblind, so that turned out to not be an option. Like it was out of the question, being colorblind. And the reason why I became an Army Ranger, it was basically after I was told I was colorblind. I passed my ASVAB test, the test that you take to get into the military, barely. And this Army nurse and recruiter, they had heard my story of, well, actually, they heard me crying. I was crying because I was like, man, all my dreams are shut down. I wasn't going to go to college. I don't think I could have. And I was not going to stay at home. So it was like a big fork in the road of, where I thought I was going to go and the options that I had. I was introduced to the Army Ranger career, and I was like, what's that? And the guy told me it was like a Navy SEAL, except they don't swim. So I was like, sure, sign me up. And that's pretty much how that whole journey started, was, failing a color vision test. I'm red-green colorblind. An Army nurse felt, sympathy for me. She helped me cheat on the test by tracing out her finger on the Easy Horror test, this color vision test, so I could see the numbers and characters in there. Ended up passing it 14 out of 14. 2 weeks later, I was on my way to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay, so you graduate high school, you go directly into the service.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask because you mentioned, you wanted to be this Navy SEAL. So I'm like, why not go to the Navy?
They didn't have the jobs I wanted. I was in the Navy Sea Cadet Corps in Annapolis, Maryland. And it was just like being a basic Navy guy. And I didn't like the uniform either, like the bell-bottom pants and the Dixie Cup hat. I wasn't feeling that. So I needed something different.
Got you. Educate me. I never had the opportunity to serve. Can you go directly into the Army and say, hey, I want to be a Ranger? Because you're talking about becoming this Army Ranger, which we know it's very, very difficult to get into any of these special forces. Do you go in day one after basic training and go right into Ranger school, or is there a process before you can become a Ranger?
No, it's a pretty long process. You can go in and ask for a Ranger contract, and that's essentially what I did. They call it the option 40, and they put Ranger in your contract, but there's like a 75% chance that won't even happen. So after basic, I went to, you have to go to airborne school. You jump out of planes and, all that cool stuff. Graduated basic, went to airborne school. After airborne school, we went to a Ranger selection, about a month long, no days off. And our class size when I first went there was like 85. Somewhere around that number, 85, 88 guys. And by the time it was done, only 6 of us graduated. And we had another guy walk on from another class. So 7 total out of almost 100 guys actually made it. And then from there, we went on to the Ranger Battalion. Mine was 3rd Ranger Battalion. I did 2 years there and went to Ranger School. And that is a 62-day course. Lost 40 pounds in that school. Came back to 3rd Ranger Battalion and deployed a few more times. And then went to sniper school and all that other cool stuff. But it's a pretty good long process, about 2 years worth,
It's about 2 years, because you just went through a bunch of schooling and a bunch of training just now.
Oh, yeah.
Jumping out of airplanes to Ranger School, and I believe it was Ranger School where you said you lost how many pounds?
About 40 pounds.
Is that normal?
30, 35 pounds is pretty normal. I would say normal. Like, you don't eat much. It's the equivalent of walking like the entire East Coast in 62 days with about 120 pounds on your back. And some days there's food. And by food, I mean like bare minimum, amount of food. A cracker here or Skittles here. You try to make do with essentially what you have, which is an MRE, a meal ready to eat. And you may or may not get one. You may not have time to eat one because you're moving all night, all day, walking up the mountains, in the swamps, doing all that cool stuff. It's not cool, but it looks cool on TV.
I got to ask, you said you were bullied as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does not become a Navy SEAL. Everybody does not become an Army Ranger. What do you have? What did you have that... I think you said something like 80 people started, close to 100 people start, 7 people finish. What is it about you or any of the guys, your brothers, who are going through this grueling process that allow you guys to make it?
For me, it was like a few reasons. I would say 2 or 3 reasons. One, I was just too scared to fail. Like, I would be embarrassed. I told my family, I preached about it my entire school career. I'm not going to fail. I'm going to become this Navy SEAL or sniper. And I just didn't want to go back and feel like I failed. That embarrassment of preaching to someone, for 10, 12 years, I'm going to do this thing, and then you don't do it because I quit. And I guess you could say I kind of enjoyed watching other people fail, like guys who I thought were stronger than me. They look, pretty much look like football players. Big guys, strong guys. And I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to quit. So when I would see those guys quit, I would feed off of that. And I don't know, it was like this weird complex of I enjoyed watching the weaker people fall out and quit and me still, be there standing at the end. I was looking forward to that. And the third reason, I was just too dumb to quit. Like, I wanted to quit every day, but I was just too dumb to quit. I would always say, I'll quit tomorrow, or I'll quit in 30 minutes, or I'll quit after this 8 hours worth of push-ups or 12 mile, 15 mile run. I would always, plan ahead and say, I'm going to quit after that. But after I got done, I was like, you know what? It really wasn't that bad. It was just in that moment, it really was bad and painful. And after the fact, I was like, it wasn't that bad. So I stuck around for another day, another 30 minutes, another evolution of, getting beat down. And after the fact, I was like, it wasn't that bad. It could be worse,
Give me an idea. We hear these stories about these special forces guys, specifically the Navy SEALs in the Hell Week. And they're up for a full week or 5 straight days, and it's just torture on every single level. What's the equivalent in the Army Rangers?
Selection. Like, we don't have a Hell Week, where it's 5 days of just being up, doing physical activities, without sleep. And I don't even think they go the entire 5 days. I think it's like 3 days and some change. But they get weekends off. Like, we didn't have weekends off. Our days it was just all one long day. So I would say selection for us was pretty brutal. But like, I'm kind of biased. I respect the SEALs for what they do, but when it comes to like being overseas doing stuff, there's only one unit that outshines Navy SEALs, Green Berets, and Delta Force, all those units. It's the Army Rangers. Like, we're the only unit that's killed and captured more enemy targets, been consecutively deployed the entire duration of the global war on terrorism, no days off. There was never a time a Ranger was not over there. And I'm probably going to piss some SEALs off with it, but no SEAL has ever had to rescue us. Every single time a SEAL has been behind enemy lines and needed some help, they call us to come get them. Marcus Luttrell, the guy from Lone Survivor.
Yep.
We went in to rescue him. Roberts Ridge, early on in the war, RIP, but he ended up passing away. He fell out the helicopter. Rangers had to go in to help them out. I was on a mission with SEAL Team 6, and they needed some assistance getting some guys out. So they called us, and it's for a reason. They're bad dudes too, but we're just real bad.
Okay, how tall are you?
I'm 5'7".
How much do you weigh?
Right now? Like
How much did you weigh when you were in the service?
155. I hover around that still, like 155, 160.
Okay, I asked you earlier, what is it about you? There's nothing, like, you're clearly tough as nails. You are clearly somebody who has the mental toughness to go through things that most people could not conceive or would not want to or would quit. You're 5'7", 150.
Yeah. I was smaller in high school. Like, my senior year, I didn't weigh 100 pounds. I gained 30 pounds in basic. It was the first time I ever had 3 meals in a day. So I gained 30 pounds there, and another 20 pounds when I was in Ranger Battalion. Like, we ate good.
Got you.
But no, I don't even see myself as being like anything special or anything like that. It's just a mindset of how far, like, I was willing to die in training and, in combat for that matter. Like, when the time came, like, I'll die for it. That's it's just the mindset. Like, once you stare death in its face, or you can smell it, and like, yeah, this is that time to, like, shake death's hand and make that agreement. Like, you know what, let's do it. I had that mindset of, like, I did, Ranger selection on 2 fractured tibias and fibias. And before that, broke one when I was jumping out of planes. And I looked down one morning and I couldn't see my feet. My calves and my shins were like swollen up so big I couldn't see my feet. And I still did training on that. So it's just, I'm too dumb to quit. And not in a bad way, but some people are just built like that. Like, there's nothing on this planet that's gonna stop me from doing what I want to do. And that's with anything,
Wow. I think you just said something that was very, very revealing as to what it really and truly takes. See, everybody talks that I'm ready to die for something, but not everybody truly means those words. And clearly, when you say I was ready to die, you meant that.
Oh,
You
100%. Yeah. You have to. If you don't believe it, if you don't mean it, then you won't do it. Like, I watched a guy, my second deployment, he went through all the Ranger training and stuff like that too. But the first time we were like in a really good firefight, I watched him curl up in a fetal position right beneath my feet. We were in this vehicle called the Striker. I was on the machine gun and I watched this guy huddle down underneath me and was too scared to move. We had rockets bouncing off the ground, exploding in front of us. And we went through all the ammo we had. The helicopters, they went through all the ammo and rockets that they had. So it was a pretty intense firefight. It lasted for a few hours, and I watched him not pull the trigger one time. So it basically, yeah, I guess does come down to a mindset. You can do all the training and stuff like that too, but when the time comes to do the deed, there's a few people who think they can do it, and the other few people who actually will do it. Go through with it.
Wow. How long were you in the service?
From 2004 to 2010. And then I did another year in the private military sector for a private military contractor. Like, if you've heard of Blackwater, I wasn't Blackwater, I was Triple Canopy. It's
Got you.
Yeah, private military.
How many deployments?
Total 6 deployments.
6 deployments. Okay. Let's talk about your first deployment. At this time, you're an Army Ranger?
I was, yep.
You're an Army, but you're not a sniper yet.
No, I started off machine gunner. Well, I started off as an assaulter. My first deployment, I was a machine gunner, and I stayed machine gunner for about 2 years. I had my own little machine gun team. Then I became a designated marksman, and then I became a sniper after that.
Okay, stop there for 1 second, because I want you to walk us through this for a second.
Yeah.
And I want to talk specifically about your first deployment. You're still green.
Oh, yeah.
We know about the 33 confirmed kills. You never killed anyone at this point.
Oh,
How
my
old are
first
you?
deployment?
Yes, your first deployment.
Oh, no, I did some killing. There was only one deployment I didn't kill anybody.
No. Prior to going into your first deployment.
Oh, got you.
You had never killed anyone at that point.
No.
How old are you?
18.
You're 18 years old. You're green.
Uh-huh.
So help us, because when I envision a deployment, somebody who's never been there, somebody who's never been in a firefight, I think of scenes like Charlie Sheen in the movie Platoon, when they dropped him over in Vietnam. And I'll never forget, because to me, I love that movie, but it was one of the most compelling scenes in any war movie that I have ever seen, because when they dropped him over, it was innocence.
Mm-hmm.
If for nothing else, there was innocence. And soon as they got off the plane, the guys were carrying dead bodies past them. And him and the other guys were like, is that what you think it is? Is this? And all of a sudden that innocence is blown. They realize I am at war. And I also think, obviously more people are probably familiar with Private Ryan and that opening scene in the movie where they stormed Omaha Beach and they're pulling up in these barges, and as soon as they drop that wall, bullets start flying. What was it like for you when you first got deployed?
I thought it was going to be like Saving Private Ryan. And side note, those were Rangers from 2nd Ranger Battalion. That whole unit that was going to go save Private Ryan, those were all Rangers. I thought it was going to be like that, but what it turned out to be was we were on this big C-17, a big airplane, jumbo jet-like airplane, transportation. I thought when they lowered the ramp down, we were going to run off in the desert, there's going to be bullets flying everywhere. And it was the exact opposite. Like, they lowered the ramp. It was hot. I remember that. It was like 120 degrees, it felt like. And there was like a coffee place over there, a McDonald's over here, and it was quiet. I'm like, dude, where's all the war stuff? Where's the noises and stuff like that? It was quiet. Everybody had a smile on their face. It wasn't anything of what I expected. But later that night is when I got a chance to see, oh, well, this is the war part. You have to leave the wire. So we were like all on this big base at the airfield in Tikrit. I think we landed at Baghdad and drove to Tikrit, or took another flight to Tikrit, Iraq, where Saddam Hussein, that's where he grew up or lived or something like that. But no, it was pretty much peaceful, serene. I never heard, gunshots or any bombs or anything going off when I first stepped foot off the plane. And I was kind of scared. I was watching all the guys around me. You carry your gun. And I remember thinking, like, I don't have any bullets. So when they lowered the ramp, in my mind, I'm thinking we're going to run off. The first person it drops, I'm going to grab his gun, put the bullets in my gun, and we keep going from there. But we just walked off with our bags and like nothing, like it didn't feel like war at all. It just felt like a mini resort, I guess, just in the desert with nothing to see, no color, hot.
How long were you there before you got in your first firefight?
About 8 hours.
Excuse me?
Yeah, about 8 hours. Like, we left. We got there. We got a mission 8 hours soon after that. And we were out the door within 8 hours from the little compound we stayed at. A little secretive compound blocked off to where nobody can see what goes on the inside. And we went out back, caught some helicopters, and like, I knew what the mission was and what we were supposed to do. We trained for it, but it didn't feel real until I actually like got off the helicopter. All the dust is blowing up all around, and then you start hearing bang, 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 pop, pop, stuff like that. And I didn't know what it was. I thought they were gunshots. Turned out to be stun grenades guys were throwing in the house, and then the gunshots came after that. And I just was like pretty much thinking to myself, like, man, there's got to be at least 3 or 4 dead bodies inside that building. Never got a chance to see any. But it was like my first experience of, okay, I guess this is war. It's almost like what I looked at on TV under night vision. We only did missions at night. I never saw Iraq at daytime, other than walking around our compound, getting something to eat, or leaving Iraq. It was always at nighttime. So it was surreal, I guess, a little bit. It didn't get real for me until like I had to shoot someone. And that was pretty fair, like fairly early on. I would say the first week or two in country is when I had to shoot someone.
Okay, you're 18 years old. You are now put in a position where you have to take a man's life. Walk me through that experience.
Yeah, so we just got done doing a mission. We were on these 40-ton strikers. I was a machine gunner up top on a big 50 cal. It's like a 5.5-inch long bullet. It can penetrate tanks, take down airplanes, and it's a destructive bullet. I was on top of the machine gun, and as we're leaving, they had curfews at the time, and we started spotting cars on the drive back, about a 35-minute drive back to the compound where we stayed at. Then we see this car barreling down towards us, and the commander started to like signal me. I was in a lead vehicle. Like, dude, if this guy starts swerving and heads, like aiming the car towards us, I want you to light him up. Because they had vehicle-borne IEDs or IEDs jam-packed in the bed of the car to where the car looks like it's like on hydraulics. It's flat. It's rotting real low to the ground, packed with the explosives. And this car started to swerve into our convoy and point it in our direction. And my commander at the time, like, I'm looking at the car from a distance, and I'm like, no, this is not how it's about to go down. And he's like, dude, take it off, get ready to light this dude up. And he had to hit me on my helmet to like get me to pull the trigger at first, because I wasn't being shot at. It was a dude in the car with explosives in the back, gonna go aim towards us and like a torpedo and blow us up. And I shot him, and I remember seeing the bullets like spark off the hood of the car, and went on the inside of the car, and then a poof, like it turned him into like jello, like vapor, water vapor. When they hit, it exploded him, and we pulled over the vehicles and went to go investigate the vehicle that I just shot, and it was like a trunk full of wired explosives. I forget what kind they were. I'm not going to tell you how to make them, but it's like homemade explosives. And when they opened up the car door, he like spilled out like jello, spilled out onto the pavement. That was my first experience, and like I didn't feel anything after that. I was like, holy shit. Oh, I just shot this dude. And I didn't feel anything about it. It was just weird. Until that night, then I dreamt about it. And the dude that I shot, he was my ceiling fan in my room. So his arms and legs were the blades, and his head was the center portion of the ceiling fan. And he was spinning, and I was strapped on my bed. I couldn't move. And he started spinning faster and faster until like his body ripped apart and flew all over the room and doused me in his blood and stuff like that. Then I woke up and went on about the next mission, which was like, we did 120 missions in 90 days. So we were doing like 2-3 missions sometimes a day. We didn't have any days off. So it was, we were getting it in every night,
How many people would you say you killed during that period?
My first deployment? Dang. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know. Like more than 10, easily. We were lighting it. Yeah, more than 10.
Okay, go back because something just, wow. You said it's just insane. You're shooting with 50 cals. Those go through tanks. When you hit a human being with that bullet, his body disintegrates.
Oh, it
literally turns to jello.
If you miss a person and the bullet passes by within like a couple of feet, it'll rip a limb off.
Even if you miss them.
Even if you miss, that bullet's moving so fast and it's big and powerful. You can be like within 2 feet of hitting someone and then it's still like take their arm off.
Where'd you shoot him?
Everywhere. I guess upper body, like he evaporated. The only like clear shot I remember with the 50, well, no, my machine gunner behind me, he hit a guy with the 50. He was running on a rooftop. He had an RPG, and he hit him, and his upper body like went away, and just his legs like took 2 more steps on the rooftop, but his upper body was gone. It'd do that.
And you literally saw this.
Oh yeah.
How do you function? Like, how?
To be honest, I don't know. It didn't feel real. Like, I never seen human bodies do that stuff. Even the first person who I seen get shot with a sniper rifle, he fell off of a building, landed right in front of me, and my mind told me it was a sack of potatoes in a burlap bag. That's what my mind told me. I knew what it was, but I guess to compartmentalize it, it was just a bag of potatoes to me. So I never really and even like walking over dead bodies and seeing it, I never put 2 and 2 together until later on. In the beginning, it was just, I was confused, I think. I never seen anything like that, and it was far different from what the movies, like the body does a lot of weird stuff, Like seeing guys get shot in the head and like it either looks like a pancake sometimes it splits in half, pops off, or the overpressure from the bullet to make the eyeballs like sag out their eyes like a cartoon. So it kind of be like them, like, it's just like that. Yeah.
Wow. I got to ask you this because as you're speaking, it almost sounds like you disassociate.
You have to.
You have to, correct?
You have to.
Okay, looking back, even before I take the story forward, are trained killers like yourself, are you made? We see movies like Jason Bourne, Jack Ryan, Rambo. Some of them seems like, I'm born to do this. And then others are trained. Where do you fall in?
Honestly, I would say born. I would say born. Born
So
to
you
do
would
it.
say you're more trained. You're not a natural born killer.
Honestly, I think back then, more of a natural born killer. I just hadn't experienced it yet. Like the training was fine. Like it helped out, but almost all that stuff goes out the window when you're getting shot at. Like there's no, like, you know what to do, but you gotta, I think those guys and guys like us, you're just born to perform that task, you know? Somewhere in our history, in our lineage, we had warriors or something like that, blood in us, and it just trickled down. But for the most part, I say guys are born to do it. And sad to say, I think some guys are also like the ones who are trained, it can be addictive. Not just the killing part, which I'm sure, you know, can be addictive if you're good at it. And yeah, but it can be addictive, but also like the rush. I think people are just, you know, addicted to that rush. It's a big drug, you know, you'll never experience with any, you know, illegal drug or legal drug you can get anywhere in the world. It's different.
You know, and that's where I was kind of going with this, because I gotta imagine you take your first life, you're freaking out. Just by the thought, even if you don't immediately feel anything, you have to, you know, walk away later on that night when it's you, the four walls in the dark. I took a life.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And at some point, for many of the guys, like you said, who are good at it, does it become the thrill of the kill? Like I've long passed freaking out that I took a life. This is actually what I do, and it's no different than guys that you see hunting, and they're hunting wild game, and they're proud of, you know, this is what I do.
Yeah, yeah. There's no different. I think, but the thing about that though, like it was like that back then, but all the guys who I know and watched them, you know, do some killing, they're different now. Like different. Not the same person. Older
Understood.
now, but not the same people.
And I have to believe that over there, this is who you have to become if you're going to survive.
Oh yeah, it's the real jungle of it's kill or be killed. And like I was coming home, I wanted to, and if that meant if I had to kill 1 million people, I would have done it. But I'm glad I didn't know. Like I don't regret, well, I do have regrets, and that's only because of my sanity, of where after the fact, like when all that stuff is said and done, the war's over or you get out, oh yeah, like you get faced with a lot of demons. And I took care of mine with being as intoxicated as I possibly could for years. Like that's all we did. Like when I was in the Army and after a deployment, we would drink for about 2 days straight because we don't drink over there for 90 days, 120 days. So after that, we would party. They would lock us in our little barracks compound, and dudes would, you know, not even 21, but we would have a good time for about 2 to 3 days of just forgetting stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You go through your first deployment. Possibly you have something like 10 kills under your belt. You're a ranger. Walk me through becoming a sniper. What does sniper school look like? How many deployments before you became a sniper? Give me an idea.
Yeah, so you have to put in some time in battalion. They call it like in the squad or on the line, just to see if you're, you know, if you can be a team player, if you are used to being overseas, can you perform under, you know, stressful conditions? And If you can just basically just prove yourself. After that, I was a team leader, and I went to Ranger school. So to become a sniper or a dog handler or a reconnaissance guy, you have to go to Ranger school. And it's a pretty, they say it's the Army's toughest school or the military's toughest school. Army, Navy, Marines. They say Ranger school. We had Marines and Navy SEALs in Ranger school. Some of those guys didn't make it. And it's supposed to be 62 days. I extended my stay. I failed the first evolution or the first phase, which is Fort Benning phase, Darby ground phase. I failed that one, and I was going to quit then, but I decided to recycle because I was supposed to get married. This was 2007, so I was supposed to get married, and in order to do that, I had to be out of Ranger school on time before a deployment. So I debated on quitting. I ended up not quitting. I went through the entire school 62 days after that. So mine ended up being closer to 80, 90 days in that school. As soon as I got out, did we get married? We got married yeah, I did. I got married as soon as I got out of Ranger school. Head was still halfway shaven. My fingernails didn't grow for months. I couldn't feel the tips of my toes for about a year. And I was 40 pounds lighter, way malnutrition, and got married. After that, a month or two later, I went overseas, and that was my, I want to say third deployment. And we went to Mosul, Iraq. Now that was 2007. We got married in October. No, we got married in November. And that next year, 2008, I went to Mosul, Iraq. Then after that is when I went to sniper school. And sniper school, it was at Fort Benning, and I want to say it was 8 weeks long. We were supposed to go to a National Guard one. That was a little bit longer. Mine was 8 weeks, and it's a 70% dropout rate, but most of that comes from the stalking stuff. Sniper school wasn't about shooting. You would think it would be, but by then you're already a pretty good shot. You have to be able to shoot a hand-sized group or a quarter-sized group with the basic M4 with no scope on it at 100 meters or a hand-sized group at 100 meters. If you can do that, you should be able to, once you learn the mathematics and the environmentals like the wind and barometric pressure, altitude, and all that stuff, you should be able to apply that math to the scope on your rifle and you are a good shot. But what makes sniping being hard is always being able to basically blend in with the mother nature and that stalking. That's where you get most of your dropouts. 70% of the dropouts of all the candidates in sniper school fail stalking phase.
What is stalking phase exactly, and why would they drop out during that part?
Stalking is basically learning how to blend in with your surroundings. So when I think sniper, I always thought the ghillie suit, that suit with all the junk on it, strings and sticks and leaves. Yeah. Being able to use that, sneak into an area. What makes it hard, you have your instructors who are well-trained on looking for stuff. So you put on this ghillie suit and they say you have to make it within 300 meters of their position and identify where they're at and make a shot. After they make a shot, they'll bring in another instructor who'll stand within 10 feet within your position. And the guy who you're stalking or looking at mock shooting, he'll tell the guy who's standing next to you, okay, well, I think I see him over here. So that guy, he's got a long stick and he'll walk within, where that instructor thinks he sees you at. And he's within, a few feet from you, and you have to be unseen while he's standing next to you, pull off a shot still without being seen, and then sneak back out without being seen. And that's hard to do. Sometimes there's not enough grass or trees, and so you have to be real sneaky, just very sneaky to pull it off.
You say that's where most guys drop out. Are they are they dropping out or they being kicked out?
Being kicked out. Yeah, being kicked out. They feel that you have to pass, I think with this, I forget the percentage of what you have to pass with, but you have to pass with a pretty high percentage to actually graduate. And that's where most of the guys just sucked. Like they were not built to sneak around and be mischievous, and like you're hunting people, and that's one of the hardest creatures to hunt. One of the hardest creatures, because they think too. They think like us, so you have to. It's a never-ending chess match. You have to outthink them, and also be cognizant of like where the sun is at. You know, if the sun's in front of me, you might see the glint off my scope, or I can't see you because the sun's in my eyes. So if I can get into a position, it may take hours to get into a position to where I can shoot someone and not have the sun in my eyes. Something as simple as that. Are only moving when the wind blows, because grass doesn't, you got this patch of grass that's moving, everything else is standing still, but when the wind blows, you just kind of move with that, and you look like grass blowing in the wind.
Got you. You mentioned earlier a couple of things I want to circle back on. Number one, you said there's a lot of math and weather. Mm-hmm. Where does that, how do they even factor into becoming a sniper?
How did it factor in? Like
why math? I think like literally I think about looking through a scope and shooting. Like how does math even into this equation?
You have to defeat your first greatest threat to a bullet is gravity. So when you just if you were to aim and shoot, eventually that bullet's gonna hit the ground at a shorter distance. But if you aim up, it's like a wide receiver or a quarterback throwing the football. You know, he can get way more distance on it if he arcs the football. So the math allows you to arc the bullet like a football to go further into a target. So like, let's say if I'm shooting half a mile, like there's a pretty significant amount of math in that equation to be able to pull that off. But if you don't apply any math, you'll miss your target by football fields. Oh yeah, the guy you're shooting at won't even know you're shooting at him if you apply no math at all. And even if you did apply the math, you have to factor in the wind now. Like there's so much different wind changes between me and the target, which is a mile away or half a mile away. Like there's a lot of things that happen with the wind at ground level. Let's say at half a mile, the bullet, I have to arc it. I think it's like 12 feet above my position where I'm shooting at. I think it's 12 feet at half a mile into the air. I want to say 12. My math, I haven't done that math in a minute. Could be 12 feet, between 12 and 40. With a 7.62 at half a mile, the bullet's going to apex, arc into the air before it comes plummeting down. So when you shoot someone at that distance, the bullet never goes straight in. It's coming like down on top of them almost. So you're doing a lot of math you're factoring in the bullet speed, how far the target is. The gravity is always going to be a constant. The wind is a variable. Altitude is a variable. Planes fly faster at higher altitudes. Bullets work the same way. So the higher my altitude, the thinner the air, the faster my bullet is going to fly, as opposed to being at ground level, a lot more, dense air, stuff like that. You're factoring all this stuff. And at some point, the further out you get, then you start to factor in the spin of the earth itself. So where you aim it where the target's going to be as the earth is spinning, and he'll meet that bullet. So it's a lot of math.
Damn. Whoa. What's your farthest snipe? Like, what's the farthest target you've ever hit, and whether it's a human being, or a still object?
1 mile on a steel target and half a mile on a person.
How many times did you have to shoot before you hit the still object?
Like two or three times at a mile.
I don't think the average person can fathom. Because to you, I'm sure, a mile is probably normal for what you guys do. Maybe
To be
not.
honest, no, a mile is tricky. Like that's 4 to 6 seconds of bullet flight time. Half a mile, I'm comfortable. Like half a mile, if I got a good gun and the conditions are ideal, I mean, if I got you in my sights at half a mile, you can call that lights out. And that's, I think half a mile, that's 1.6 seconds of flight time with the 7.62, yeah.
So I gotta ask, this is not a normal profession. When guys are, aspiring to be in the NBA, they'll study people like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson. They'll study the greats. If they want to become professional fighters, they'll study people like Muhammad Ali, John Jones, George Foreman, the greats. But this is not a typical profession because just by virtue of what it is, I'm going to be a sniper. It requires you to take life. It is by definition, I'm going to have to do things that most people can't. For a sniper, do you guys sit and do you have your heroes? Do you have people who I've studied this person my entire life? And if that's the case, is it the person with the most kills, or do they possess certain elements about their style and the way they went about doing their job that sticks out to people like you?
Definitely. Like, I didn't have anybody, like you mentioned, let's say basketball. If I wanted to be a basketball player, I would probably study like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. If I wanted to be a boxer, I'd take Mike Tyson, Ali, Frazier, Foreman, even Mayweather, along those professions, like we have, like, I'm going to be honest, like being the only black guy in the sniper battalion and for a while, like in the entire battalion, and a sniper profession in general, we didn't have anybody as a black guy, to look up to as you would in sports. For me, it was Carlos Hathcock. He was a Marine sniper in Vietnam. And I used to steal video cassette tapes from the library, skip school or get out of school by faking sick, and come home and study his tapes of interviews with him being a sniper and what it was like for him. And that was like my idol. He had, crazy amount of kills, like 93 in Vietnam. But he's not even the guy with the most in Vietnam. His spotter, I think he outdid him by a few dozen. But that was who I looked up to. And it wasn't because of the number of kills. It was the way that he went about it. Like he, in my opinion, is like the godfather of all sniping when it comes to what we do today. He was an excellent stalker. He could stalk. One of his big stories was stalking Vietnamese commander for like 1,000 yards and had to sneak back out after he assassinated him. Stuff like that is what, I took from him and just how he went about it, just his calmness, his collectiveness, and just everything about him. How he describes shooting, of going into this like bubble where nothing else exists. That's how I feel when I shoot. Shut everything off and it's just me and the gun and whatever the thing I'm about to shoot is. And I took those attributes from him, and that's who I looked up to as a sniper. Before going in, studied him as a kid. When I was in the military, I continued to study him. That was my guy, Carlos Hathcock.
Carlos Hathcock. Okay. Again, 33 confirmed kills over the course of 4 months. So you're literally killing 12 people a month. Yeah. No. 10 people a month at least. 12 people a month, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm. Shot more people than that. Well, I put bullets in people. More than 33. It's just like identifying the body, gonna go get the body, or sometimes we didn't have time to. Like I remember shooting this one guy. or two guys. They were setting up a machine gun nest about to ambush us. And I shot him. He was laying down behind the gun. And I watched my bullets like hit him in his butt, hit him in his thigh, and him stumble off into the tree line. Then I lit his partner up, but never found the bodies. We just found like chunks of puddles of thick red blood. And we just stopped like pursuing where we thought the bodies were. And I shot like 4 other people who never saw the bodies, and all the enemy we were shooting at, they would carry him off and put him inside of a hut or a home and leave him there. It's like a big war on numbers for them too. So if we can't identify any bodies, it's to us, we didn't kill anybody. It doesn't give us a satisfaction of, hey, we got, this many guys on this day and this many guys on this night. It takes that away from us. So they would try to hide the bodies too. But I shot, I put more bullets in people than they needed it. They were about to shoot us or setting up to shoot us or already shooting us and stuff like that. And, but yeah, more than 33. 33 was just like the definitive, yeah, it's 33 for sure.
33 confirmed. And I just did the math. That's just a little over 8 people a month, if we're talking within a 4-month span. Wow.
It felt like more than that. I guess some weeks were just really, really dull. One night in particular, I shot 3 guys on a rooftop, 2 guys on a rooftop, 2 guys on the wood line, and then I helped call in 105 howitzer rounds from this big AC-130, drop bombs on like 5 more guys. So that was in one night. And some nights were like that. Some nights we were lighting some stuff up, and yeah.
Okay, is it more satisfying for you? And I really got to choose, because I don't want to trivialize life, whether it's yours or the enemy's. So I ask this question as delicately as I can. For you, is it more satisfying to look through the scope and see a human being up close and personal that you're about to pull a trigger on, or when you were a machine gunnist and you're just spraying away? Do you prefer one to the other?
Looking back at it, as a kid, I loved sniping. It was me and the target, like once I pulled the trigger and I watched him go down, like I did that, but looking back at it now, I would probably prefer machine gunner, just because it's that separation of actually taking a life. It's a separation there. It's not as up close. You're looking at, through a scope that may be 10 magnification power, 12, 20, so you're looking at things pretty up close. And what I would sometimes try to do if the target was close, like the closest one that I've shot, he was less than 20 feet away, but I didn't aim at a particular, in my mind, I didn't aim at him. I aimed at his clothing, and shot another guy I was pretty close to, and he had a plaid shirt on with buttons on it. So I aimed at a button, and after I shot, the recoil comes back down. There's nobody in there. I'm like, well, I can see the body there, but I don't know. It's like a disassociation, I guess, but satisfying. As a sniper, you know what you did, and if killing is your job, then yeah, it's a little like, you just know you did that, you did that. Yeah.
You ever have to take the life of a woman?
No, close one time, but no. Actually, we ended up having a conversation. I didn't even know she spoke English. I was on a rooftop. She was behind me. I had no idea. I snuck up on a rooftop. She was behind me, and she had popped up in this white gown with like a veil or something. They were sleeping in this like veilish looking tent, like a wedding veil. It was weird, but she woke up in there. She stared at me, and I looked at her. I was like, "Oh shit!" I don't know what this person's move is going to be. I didn't know what she had on her. and I was saying something to her. I had talked to my spotter, and she had said something that made me be like, sit back, like, oh, she knows English. And she's like, yeah, my dad works at he teaches at the Baghdad University. And we ended up having a pretty good conversation of just life. Not even really life. It was just a human to human conversation of, it put that perspective of, oh, that person, these people have souls too, you know, they think too. Prior to that, I was just, you know, I didn't see people like that over there, at least. And talking to her and getting that, you know, hey, I understand what you guys are doing, basically is what she was saying. I'm not a threat, nothing here type deal. I kind of sat back and was like, man, they have souls too, you know? Now my first encounter ever with like a female, and no, I didn't have to shoot her. It wasn't even close to that. We just talked a little bit, and I went back to doing my job and looking out for the guys on the ground, but she was cool.
Got you. And you...
I saw one get shot though. Yeah. Older lady. And it was messed up. One of my snipers, he ended up shooting this old lady because she had an AK, but her son gave her the AK to have her run away with it. And she's climbing up this ladder, and I watched her back get torn up by a sniper. He didn't know he was hitting her. I guess she like stuck on the ladder. She got stiff and wasn't falling down, and he just made a star pattern. He thought he was missing, so he made a star pattern. Me aim up here, aim there, aim there. She finally peeled off, and, you know, her chest was blown out and stuff. That was the only time I had seen that. That messed him up pretty bad. And she had a gun and an AK, and she was going up on a rooftop, but turned out her son gave it to her because he didn't want to get shot. So he gave it to his mom and got his mom killed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you ever known, you know, you talked about talking to that woman and really getting the opportunity to see her as a human being. Have you ever known any of the people or had conversation or been within a proximity that you had the opportunity to see them as human beings before having to take their life?
No. You mean, did I ever shoot someone that I already got a connection with?
Yes.
No, everybody I shot, I met them for like 2 seconds. And I was looking at them through my scope, watching them do something. Sometimes it was longer. Sometimes it was a few minutes. I would watch a person to make sure they were doing what I thought they were doing. And yeah, that happened a few times. I'll watch him for like a minute or two. I'm like, yeah, this guy is doing what I think he's doing. He has a gun. All right, now he's aiming it. He doesn't know where my guys are at, but he thinks he knows. And he would like crack off into the air or something like that, or aim to where our guys would, he would thought our guys were at nighttime. And I'd sit there and be watching him. And yeah, I'd end that person. So that was like the longest I actually, I guess you could say, met one of them before I shot him.
Okay, so it's not like we see in the movies where guys are sitting around for hours, sometimes days.
No, I did 5 days. My longest one was 5 days.
That you watch someone?
Not someone. We were after someone. The longest I watched a particular person was about a full night, like a full night's worth of time, 8 to 12 hours on a rooftop. But I had been awake by that moment. I think that was the 4th day. The 5th day is when I was, me and my 5-man team, we were pinned down by an enemy sniper in Afghanistan, and we were overrun by that entire village, a few hundred people. And yeah, we had to fight our way out of that, and that lasted all day. I went in with 210 bullets, and I left with about 6.
Wow.
And I wasn't shooting just like most of those bullets were just like to keep their head down, because they were, you know, I could hear them screaming Allah Akbar and hear their feet banging on the ground. They were popping out the ground, and oh yeah, they ended up shooting 3 of our guys that mission. But the longest I ever had to like stay somewhere was that 5-day operation, sitting on a rooftop for a full night. And we had moved around chasing this guy for 5 days in the meantime. But yeah, the longest sitting in one space at one time was a full night.
Got you. I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier. You said you were married since '07.
Mm-hmm.
What is it even like to date you or a person like you? Like, what does that even look like?
I've always wanted the same thing. I wouldn't date me, you know? I wouldn't. Especially back then. I think I'm a okay guy now, but back then, no. I'm not gonna say I was mean. I was just, like I said, I would drink from the time I woke up in the military, which is around 5 o'clock, 4:35 a.m. I'd start drinking then, go to work, do my 5 mile, 6 mile run, whatever, PT, 3 to 6 mile run, PT, eat, sneak out to my car, have another like 3 beers. If I was lucky, I could get a 6-pack in. And then after work, I would stop by the gas station, get a 6-pack, 12-pack. And by the time I was walking into the front door of my apartment, that was already gone. So I'd stop at the gas station again, a liquor store right up the street from our apartment, get a bottle of Jack Daniels, another 6-pack, a small bottle, and I'd finish all that and do it again the next day. And that continued for, like I said, years. So I was never...
Is this prior to getting out of the service?
Oh, yeah. I was still in. Like, when we first met, it was like that every day.
And your wife stuck with you?
Surprisingly, yeah. She's seen it all.
Because you're talking about, and we're going to get to the physical effects, the drinking and all of that stuff. I was just coming from the mindset, you compartmentalize everything. You have to. You disassociate. I'm just trying to wonder, like, what the hell is even a conversation look like with you? Because, are you there? Are you present? Is your mind still on the battlefield?
Yeah. It would be, but for the longest time, like, she had no idea what I was even doing. We were married it took her a couple of deployments. My last deployment is when she found out, oh, wow, he's killed people before. And that was because I came back, she came to pick me up, and one of my guys was like, dude, I heard you got this many guys or whatever. And then we were driving off base one time, and a guy pulled up next to us in his pickup truck and rolled down the window. He's like, dude, I heard X, Y, and Z. And I think that was the first time she had ever realized, yeah, this guy, killed people before. Before that, never really talked about it. It was like, I didn't care, and I was ready to get back overseas. Like, I liked being home, but not for too long. I felt more comfortable being at war back then.
Okay, you got to explain that, because, I often hear that from guys who serve, guys who have been in combat. There's a movie, The Hurt Locker. I'm sure you've seen it. And, the whole movie, this guy, his life is war, whereas most people would be fighting. Matter of fact, you even spoke about it. I was trying to get home. If I had to kill 1 million people to get home, I would have did that. And then when you get home, there's a need to go back.
Oh, yeah. Because
how do you make sense of that?
By staying in. For me, like, it was too much stress being at home. Like, when you're overseas and you're doing that job, there's only one thing you really have to worry about. You don't have to worry about bills. You don't have to worry about, why is my girl mad at me, or any of that stuff. It's just you, your guys, and we just got to stay alive, kill or be killed. That's the only rule only thing you ever have to worry about is just staying alive. Here in the States, you got to worry about not only just paying your bills, get into a car accident. Is somebody going to rob me? Is my house going to get broken into? So many things bad, that could happen that you have no control over. Overseas, I at least have what I felt like control over if I was going to live or die. And that was just by me fighting way harder than the other guy. You can't do that here. Like, let's say, for example, you're late on a bill and those people are calling you and whatnot. You can't change that circumstance. You can't generate money to pay that bill out of anywhere. You have to just deal with it within that, how things work here stateside. But overseas, if there's a problem, the only problem there is, hey, this guy's trying to kill me. I can take care of that. You just got to kill him. I can generate that. I can't generate money out of anywhere, but I can generate, you just pull a trigger and there's the end of that problem. So it was like the simplistic thought process behind that is what made war more comfortable, as opposed to being here where there's so much stuff you have to worry about, just to stay alive, and you have no control over.
You have to understand, sitting on my side of the table, how bizarre,
really,
and inverted in your thinking that sounds. Like you said, over there you feel as though you have more control. Like you are a sniper. Y'all's motto is without warning, without remorse. All of the people that you hit, they didn't know that bullet was coming. They could literally walk down the street and boom, it's over. I go from here to the promised land in a second. Most people would say paying bills. I know that I know my car note is late, but I can call up the creditor and work a deal. That's what's within control.
That's stressful to me. That makes my anxiety go up. I get paranoid and I shut down. Like that stuff, my mind is like, I don't like that. Put me in a gunfight, I'm cool. Like I always told my wife, I was like, if anything ever happens here and America's going to an end and everybody's out in the streets fighting, I'm like, we're good. Don't have to worry. I'm not stressed out. We're going to be fine. But all the other stuff before that happens, yeah, I think that's more stressful, of just living day-to-day life. I think that's more stressful. And even overseas, like when you die, you die. You just die. Here, it can be a long, drawn-out death. Debt. Being in debt, that's a long, drawn-out death, if you ask me. I think things of that nature. It's a grave you're always trying to fight to climb out of, but another circumstance may pop up and that'll push you way back underneath into that pit. Over there, it's lights out. You just die. You don't have a say-so in that. And when it happens, when the time comes, there's no, oh, this sucks. You're just dead. So that's, I guess that's where I find I'll just be more comfortable in combat. And I still feel that way to this day. Like I see myself as a changed individual, but like you can't kill that part of you that's always, in my opinion, has always been there. And I relied so much on to stay alive. Like that animal's always going to be there. I just rather it not come back out. Like if it has to now, at this age and point in my life, you'd have to do something like to my family. And yeah, I would regret taking a life unless you did something to my family. Then I'd be worse than I was overseas. Worse as in, if you mess with my family, I would thoroughly enjoy doing what I'm going to do. Like with no remorse. I've had remorse, and I do have remorse for some of the kills or whatnot. But something of that nature, if I have to do it again, harming my family would be the one where we were going to have some fun, I will. They won't, but yeah.
Wow. I guess a couple of things come to mind. Number one, do you believe in God? And number two, are you afraid of death? I know you're not afraid of taking a life, but are you afraid of death?
Those are good questions. Yeah. I do believe in God. I believe in a higher power. I call him Yah or Jah. Like when I was overseas, I would pray. And towards like the end of that deployment, when I got out, I lost faith, didn't believe in it, because I'm like, I watched a lot of or my guys die. And especially when I came back, suicide was rampant, still is. You know, I was getting a phone call quite often of, dude, your team leader or this guy, you remember this guy? Like, yeah. And he killed himself. You know, 3 kids. When I was watching guys kill themselves. So I lost it then, got back into it after the birth of my son, and I wasn't a Christian. Like I, played with other stuff. I went as far as to even doing like looking into witchcraft and stuff like that, the occult. Not for me, but what it did do was shed light and open me up to what I am today, which is a Rasta. I believe in, following that path and that way of life. That's what, my family practices, the laws of the Nazarite. It's why I don't cut my hair. It's why my son's hair hasn't been, cut since he was born. So it has changed me. I've, found peace and a lot of peace in becoming and following that way of life. Not tied down to like Christianity or anything like that, but I believe in a higher power, 100%, the creator of all things. And I think when we die, depending on your state of being, your soul is what you're going to be attracted to. If you're a negative soul, negative person, got a lot of junk on it, you're going to get pulled down to this dark, bottomless pit in the afterlife. If you are free of all those things and you go back up and become one with the sun, am I scared of death? I am now. I wasn't back then, but yeah, I am now.
Are you scared of death because, like many people, like most people, like all people, we don't know what's on the other side? Or
I believe I do.
For the first time, you do have something to lose. You got a baby. You got a wife.
Exactly. That's what freaks me out. Like, I know there's another place. Like, energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transferred. That's science. We're energy. This flesh may be destroyed, but that spark of life, that thing that we all have, that consciousness, that energy within us, it can't be destroyed. It can only be transferred from one state to another. It just won't be here in this state. We go somewhere, not physically, but consciously, spiritually. Yeah, I do believe that. And I'm scared of death now simply because of the fact of what I do have to lose, not materialistic things or anything like that. It's just I wouldn't be able to be around for my family or whatnot. Like what made me a good sniper, what makes any sniper a good sniper is the fact that like you take these psychological tests and to even become a sniper. One of the traits that you have to have is to be like a protector. You have to have that protective personality trait because you're watching over all your guys, could be 20 guys, 30 guys on the ground. You watch over all of them to make sure nothing happens to them. To make sure nothing happens to them, you have to take a life. If somebody pops up in the window or something like that, whatever, to protect your guys, you have to take a life. So being that mother hen, that nurturer, that protector, not being able to provide that same for my family, my son, would be like devastating. That's why I wished or I hope that I do pass on enough knowledge to him to where, because we all have to face that, death when it comes. I just hope I give enough knowledge to him to where, he can be better than I was. That's my whole thing. He can't be like me. He has to be way better, That's what I want to see. I hope I'm around to see it, If I keep living life the way I do, I think I'll get there.
Got you.
But it's not my will,
When you were in the service, you had the nickname The Reaper. It's also the name of your book. And I would highly urge anybody who is watching this, go get that book. It is an incredible book. Very, very fascinating. Was that a name that your friends called you and your brothers? And did your enemies know that there was somebody out there that was as deadly as you called the Reaper? And if he's anywhere in the vicinity, I need to get out.
Yeah, so I got the name like midway through that deployment. One of the assaulters, we had grew up in battalion together. He came up with that name. He was asking, he's like, dude, he actually became a sniper after that deployment because of my deployment. He's like, man, you're like the angel of death, like the Grim Reaper. And my spotter, he's an older guy, he referred to Blue Oyster Cult, that don't fear the Reaper. And that's where it all sparked off from. The Reaper is where that, came from. Started off with an assaulter. My spotter was in the Blue Oyster Cult. And it's like, no, don't fear the Reaper. That's the Reaper. That's where it started. The enemy never knew. I think the closest they ever came to finding anything out, which they wouldn't have, it was pretty secretive stuff we were doing. And only thing that I can say that I guess they knew something. I killed 6 Taliban. They were leaders of that region in Helmand province. And they ended up fleeing into Pakistan, the rest of the bad guys, if you want to call them that. And they didn't come back out for 2 or 3 weeks. We didn't do anything. There was no missions to be done. They stopped using cell phones, radios, and all that. They went off into Pakistan. We watched their burial service from drone footage that next morning after I had shot these guys. I didn't know who they were at the time. They had better guns, and they were blocking off this roadway. And I was like, asked for permission to shoot. They were armed, doing bad stuff, plotting, and I picked them off one by one. Yeah. To the last guy. The last guy knew it was coming because he stopped and squatted. He watched the guy next to him drop, this guy drop, and that was weird. They never ran like that. 2 people maybe ran ever. But if they were in a group, you could hit a dude and they'd be watch him drop, and because they believe in Allah's will. If that's the will, it's going to happen. So they didn't have fear. So they could watch their friend drop next to him, and that one, yeah. That's the closest they ever knew that, man, there's somebody out here. I could see their eyes where they were looking. They knew I was in this direction, but not where I was at. And when it came for the last guy to get hit, he just squatted and put his hands like this on his face and ate it. Yeah.
He just took it. Are there any kills over the course of your career that stand out to you for whatever reason, whether it was, more emotional, more satisfying, or just even with your last kill where you're just never again?
One that sticks out the most, I would say, probably the first one. And because I dreamt about it. That one was probably the one that sticks out the most. And man, probably my furthest one. And these 3 guys on the rooftop. 3 guys on the rooftop, probably, the furthest one. My furthest one sticks out the most. We were getting ambushed, and the squad in front of me, they were pointing out targets hey, he's this far away, he's right there. Had a machine gun on the side of the building. And I remember looking at him, and I was like, man, he's pretty far out there. And when I shot, I missed because I didn't judge the distance right. I had it for 500 something meters, and he turned out to be way further than that. It was the angle, it's the way I was looking at him. I watched the bullet hit right in front of him. I remember it. It was 2 mils low, those little mil dots in the crosshairs of the scope. 2 mils low, 1 mil to the left. And he watched the bullet impact, down on the sand or dirt in front of him, quite a distance. He watched it spark up. Something sparked his attention. He looked. He peeked back behind the corner, did something, came back out with the machine gun, and he was about to move somewhere. And I sent the other round, but that one, I remember seeing the vapor trail. It's almost like watching the Matrix. You can see the vapor trail off the back of the bullet as it's disrupting the, air around it. It looks like the Matrix, and you watch it go out, and I watched it peak, and when it went down into him, it was clean. I remember thinking that was the cleanest shot I've ever had, where it hit him square in his chest and how he fell and hit the ground. It was instant. He was dead before his body actually hit the ground. He fell into his own weight, and it looked like an 18-wheeler truck dropped from 30,000 feet and smacked him on the head. And he, boom, flew back, and dude next to me was like, holy shit. You know, that was the most like one that sticks out to me.
Is that the furthest?
That was my furthest one. Yeah, about half a mile.
That was your furthest. Okay, I'm looking at you. You're wearing glasses. At the time, did you have 20/20 vision? I know you were colorblind, but did you have 20/20 vision, or are you allowed to wear glasses to make your vision be 20/20?
You can have corrective, but my case, like I had some really good medics and people who are willing to lie for me on medical tests. So they cheated for me on my color vision test, and they cheated for me on my 20/20 sight test. So I don't have 20/20. It's close to it, but my right eye, my shooting eye, is worse than my non-shooting eye. So the one I
guess I'm asking because I would think you would have to have really good vision. I mean, I know the math plays a factor in this, doing the equations, but I would think you would have to have really good vision. And then on top of it, you're able to describe these kills in great detail. So, you know, I didn't know if you're over there with contacts, if you got glasses on.
Contacts would have been bad. You know, all that dirt and stuff. No, I didn't have glasses at the time. No contacts. It was just like the scope was a big glass, magnifying glass to me. You know, I don't really have to. I'm not reading the dude's polo shirt. You know, I see a bad dude with the gun. That's all I really, need to see. And at nighttime, it's like shadows anyways, like figures holding guns. It's not until like you get a little bit closer, you can see facial detail. You got to be pretty good distance, like 200, 300 meters to see like facial expression through a scope. Anything further than that at nighttime, it's like, I know it's a guy. I know he has a beard and he may be wearing glasses or stuff like that. But I don't need you didn't need pinpoint accuracy or pinpoint, sight. Eyes like an eagle to be a sniper. No.
Got you. Okay. You get out of the service in what, 2010?
Mm-hmm.
So you're in for about 6 years.
6 years. Do
a lot of damage. If you don't mind me asking, at your highest pay, what do you guys make?
At my highest pay? At my highest pay, we were broke. Me and my wife, we was making like a year. It was about 30. My highest pay, 35,000, maybe about 35,000.
Okay. You're being sent over into foreign territory, defending the freedom of all of us. Our ability to have free speech, our ability to feel safe at night. And at your highest pay, you were making $35,000 a year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Highest paid.
Okay, so I don't even need a calculator. You have clearly more kills. You can't even put a number on the amount of people you killed, but we do know as a sniper, you had 33 confirmed kills. Making $1,000, making $35,000 a year, if you add that up, what is it? A human life was worth about just a little over $1,000?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. We were getting paid before I became a highest rank, E5, E3, I was deploying as an E3 and E4. We were making less than that, 20-some thousand. And yeah,
Do you understand there are hitters on the streets right now?
Oh yeah,
that are making way more money than that.
Oh yeah,
somebody put a price on somebody's head. They making way more money than that.
Oh yeah. We used to talk about it like we would break down to how much we were getting paid per hour, and it was way below minimum wage. And yeah, we always found it. Well, I did. A few other guys I talked to did. It was just weird. Like, man, this is a lot of stuff to be doing for this money. But then you kind of, tell yourself, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I like to do it. I'm doing it because I want to serve my country. You look at it from that aspect, but that really doesn't hit you till you get out. And you're like, man, I don't have anything. I got to do something. So I went back overseas for me. And that's when I started to make, it's like $120,000 a year on one deployment. I could have been doing this way before.
Wow.
In the private military. But then I just was tired of it, got tired of deploying, tired of leaving. I was, I'm going to die eventually doing this shit. So I got to stop. That was yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about when you finally do get out. Help me with something, and forgive me, but I am stunned that 35,000 was the highest you were making, and then even when you went back over there, you were making $120,000. All things considered, I mean, that's a great salary, but it's not life changing.
No.
So I gotta ask. I'm sure you've seen the movie Rambo, and you've spoken already about the drinking. You come home, emotionally, I'm sure you've dealt with PTSD. You talked about your friends committing suicide. I remember in the movie Rambo, the very first Rambo, there was this emotional scene where he was crying and he's saying,
nothing is over.
I was over there. Excuse me?
Where he said, like, nothing is over.
Nothing's over.
Yeah.
When I was over there, I was in charge of $1 million equipment. Over here, I can't even hold a job as a dishwasher. Is this the emotions that you guys go through?
That scene was one of the most accurate scenes I've ever seen in a war movie. I have Rambo quoted on my plaque, my sniper plaque, about how God's never going to make that go away in that later movie. But I have Rambo quoted on my sniper plaque that was given to me. And that scene in particular, where he's like crying and talking about all that stuff, that's the most accurate scene I've ever seen in a war movie, was that.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. You get back and it's like, yeah, it's rough. It's rough. Yeah, it's rough. You be like, man, I don't know, like, nobody gave a shit, really. When you come back and things settle in, then it's time to look for a job or try to be normal. And yeah, you realize either you're too different and the things that you talk about when you first get back, like you're used to talking about killing people. And then you start to realize that other people don't, they're like, this is kind of awkward, And they think, then you feel a certain way about that. So your conversations change, how you interact with people change, how you joke around. You used to joke a certain way and you can't do that here. So you change that way. And it's like, what job wants to hire a guy? Okay, can you work a PowerPoint? No, but I can kill people. Well, we don't need that here. Next, it's rough.
Damn, and again, my heart goes out to you guys because you really put it all on the line for this country. And you just broke it down so beautifully. It's like we come home and our qualifications, our skill set is not even applicable to get a job here. Like what we were trained to do and what we were entrusted, the $1 million of equipment we were entrusted with, here means absolutely nothing. Like, how do you go to sleep without being disgruntled, angry, and feeling as though, and I hate to put it this way, but I don't know another way, but almost betrayed by your country?
That's exactly how you feel, Yeah. I slept at night by drinking copious amounts of alcohol and smoking herbal essence.
Wow. So are you in a place at this point where you can look at the United States and the government as though, okay, I get it? Or do you still have a feeling deep in the pit of your soul as though you guys have you have no idea what you send us to do, and you don't even take care of us. You don't compensate us.
That's what I feel, and that's one of the big reasons why my son, I'd whip his ass if he ever joined. Yeah.
See, you said that earlier about your son, that you wouldn't let him join. I had no idea that this was the sentiments behind those words.
Oh, yeah. Because when you get out, you'll do more fighting here with the VA, whatever it may be, medical stuff, to get you right. You'll do more fighting here than you ever did overseas. That's the big fight. That's the big fight. Yeah. So I'm like, would I do it again? I would. Yeah. I think.
Why? I have to ask you why. Why would because it's look at what you gave.
Yeah.
Like seriously, look what you gave. And all that you just told me. Why would you do it again?
To be honest, I don't think I'd know anything else. Like, college is not, I would have maybe liked to experience it. I never had a spring break. I never had a prom. I didn't go to prom. So I think that would be okay, I guess, but I wouldn't be able to prove myself there the way I did in combat or at war. For me, it was just proving that I can do something and I can do this, but long-term effects, I wouldn't want none of that. You know, I wouldn't want that. And like, yeah, you gotta, the older you get, it's like the dreams get weirder, you know? Dreams get weirder, and like I suppress a lot of that stuff, but like I wouldn't want my son to go through it. Definitely not. I wouldn't want my worst enemy to go through it, to be honest with you. Like, I just don't, the people who send us out, when you see them and who they are on the street, it's like, I'd beat this guy's ass without a gun. They're soft, like wet toilet paper. You know, politicians, they send us out. You know, they don't have a iron bone in their body, you know? So when I look at it from that perspective, they're more willing to send out an 18-year-old kid to do these deeds or whatnot on their behalf. They send us out. I just find that, you know, like, cowardly. That's what gets my blood going. You know, like, that's what gets me going, is the fact that, you know, these older guys, that I wouldn't send my son out there. So what does that mean about us, or how do they envision us? How do they see us to be able to do that to other little children? To be at that age, older than I am now. So if I wouldn't do that because I see the innocence and I know what happens when you go over there, you can say goodbye to that innocence, and that person's going to forever be changed. Why would I want to destroy that? I wouldn't want to. So I that's where my disdain comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And then the respect, not the respect, but the help that you get when you do come back. They invest years in teaching you how to kill and get away. Not even get away. As a sniper, you essentially are killing and learning how to get away with it. Sneaking in, sneaking out. You were never there. But to turn that switch off, and they don't ever teach you that part. You kind of got to figure that out on your own.
And that was a question that I wanted to ask you, right? You can look at, I don't know if you're into NASCAR, but these guys are driving 200 miles an hour. But eventually they got to get off the racetrack and they got to drive speed limit. You know, you have martial artists who are some of the deadliest men with their bare hands, but they also, you know, if you see them in the street, they're the most willing to, you know what? I know what I can do. I'll let this guy mouth off so long as he doesn't touch me. You know, I'm humble and I have a humility about myself. How do you turn it off? You know, they're asking you, like you said, to turn this thing off. How do you do that?
They threaten you with jail. And I'm not trying to do that. So, and it's just like, I know what would happen if I got into like a physical altercation. I know what would happen. And it wouldn't be worth it. You'd have to push me to that point, you know? Like there's not a time where I'm not carrying. I know what would happen. So to avoid that, it's just like, hey, I've been in situations or whatnot. It'd be either I'm going to say something or do something that's going to make them walk away, or it's just, I don't know, it'd be in someone's best interest not to, pursue that. Whatever you have in mind, it ain't going to go that way. Whatever you had planned, it won't be that plan. I promise that, knowing that and knowing what I can do and what I have done and what I'm willing to do. I'm like, you're not, yeah, I would eat someone's face off to win a fight. You got to be able to go as far as, yeah. If you're not willing to go that far, it's just no point. Like, why? Don't do it. Because I'll eat you. Fact. Yeah.
Obviously.
I haven't. I have never done that. But push come to shove, my life against yours, if it requires me to get a knife and a fork and eat you, I'll do it.
This is such an interesting conversation, and I knew it was going to be very heavy. Wow. Blockbuster movie a few years ago, American Sniper. Chris Kyle, the movie was about. I don't even know how many confirmed kills he had, but I guess where I'm going with this is he died by the gun. And you're talking about, I'd eat you. Do you fear karma? Do you fear, Chris Kyle did. He literally died on a shooting range, if I can remember it correctly.
Yep.
Do you feel like, all that I've done, as much as I'm trying to suppress the violence, as much as I'm trying to be a good human being and fit back into society, there's karma waiting for me?
Oh, yeah, I believe that. But I believe also in like forgiveness and repentance and repenting for the bad things that I've done. Like
Absolutely.
I've had a phone call with God, like on some mushrooms, but yeah, we talked and it was, I learned a lot, and I forgave myself. I don't hold any ill will towards anybody I ever shot. And I understand like what they were doing too. They were doing what they believed that they needed to do, protect what was theirs. I don't hold anything against them. Do I regret them? Like the sniper is saying, is without warning, without remorse. I've dropped that whole without remorse part, Like I genuinely, looking back, I'm older now. I don't know. I feel bad that it had to go down that way. I do feel that way. And my whole thing is like, I get what they were doing, I don't have any negativity towards those people or nothing. They were just doing what they were doing, I believe in asking for forgiveness and, I believe thou shalt not murder. It's not thou shalt not kill, so thou shalt not murder. I didn't murder anyone. I just feel bad that things had to go the way that they did. When it comes time for me to meet my creator, as long as I don't hold that with me, like however I felt towards those people, I'll be all right, yeah, just not holding any ill thoughts towards those people at all. The thought will cross my head every once in a while about what happened. Like I'll see an image or I'll see something or something, will remind me of something, but I don't like I used to. I used to really think about that stuff, and holding those dead souls with you ain't good. I believe that. You got to let them go. Because if not, they'll hold on and pull you. They'll get their payback. If you hold on to them, they'll get theirs at the end too, by pulling you down to a place you don't want to go.
Mm-hmm. You know, speaking of holding on to dead souls, you mentioned, you know, your brothers, people you serve with, people who, you know, you put your life in their hands and they put their life in your hands. And eventually they came home and took their life. Have you ever been to a point where I can't go on? This burden, this weight that I'm carrying, it's just too heavy.
More than I
And
would
have
like
you
to.
ever tried to take your own life?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You've tried to take your own life.
100%. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sitting on the ledge of like the sidewalk, we had this little ledge up there, and I could see my home from the back of my home. Yeah. I had my Glock 22. And a bottle of Jack. Oh yeah. And I wouldn't like, you know, I've done other stuff, but yeah, definitely been there. Been there.
Okay, so why are you here talking to me today? Could you just not go through with it? Was it divine intervention? Did something happen? Did your son walk out and,
No,
and
he
you said,
wasn't.
"What am I doing?"
No, he wasn't even alive at the time. Why didn't I? I don't know. I was unsure of like what happens after that. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't comfortable with shooting myself. I could shoot other people, but it was hard to shoot myself. I don't know. It's the hardest target I ever had to shoot, and the only one I ever like really missed, thankfully. But yeah.
Did you get to the point of actually pulling the trigger?
We got there. It was close.
Are you serious?
It was close. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. We see people like David Goggins.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with him. Navy SEAL. Jocko Willink.
Yep.
Another big tough. I don't know if he's an ex-Marine or
He was
what
a SEAL
have
too.
you.
He was a Navy SEAL. Yeah.
He's a Navy SEAL himself. You know,
They're all
they're
Navy
out
SEALs.
here and they're using their stories to inspire people. They're using their stories to motivate people to push themselves beyond what they even think is possible. What's your objective? Why do you tell your story? What wakes you up in the morning and has you doing interviews like this?
I'm not too much of like a motivational speaker like those guys, but I believe other like forms of motivation comes from other people's failures, other people's struggles, what they had to go through. You can find motivation in that. And I think simply there's always two things you can learn from a story: what to do and what not to do. At the very basic, that's what you can learn from someone's story. So by sharing that, my struggle, what I've been through, if it helps somebody, good. You know, if at the end of the day, my son can look back at it, it's like, hey, that's my dad. That's all I really care about. Like, as far as motivating other people, if that's what they get from it by me telling my story, then I'm more than pleased and thankful for that. But that wasn't like my end game or my goal, because I don't see myself as even being in that position to even do so, to be at that level, to say, hey, I can do this. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, but I just don't put myself at that level to give myself that ability to say, I'm going to go out here and I want to motivate people to do X, Y, and Z. And yes, you can. Yes, you can. Because I haven't done everything yet. I haven't experienced life enough yet to say, I may quit 5 years from now at another something else, challenge or something in my life. We don't know. You know, now that motivation stuff, it's fine. I love it. But I just don't see people living like that 100%, 24/7. Maybe they do, but we haven't lived life long enough yet. That's just the moment in the present time. 10 years from now, you don't know what mindset you may be in, what the outer circumstances may be. You may lose your wife, your kid, and that may be the thing to shut all that motivational shit up. You know, so I'm like, I get the motivational stuff, but that's not my goal. I haven't lived life long enough yet. That story can't be written. It'll be written when I'm done, meaning in life. Like when my life's done, then that story be written. But I can just share what I have going through right now. If that motivates someone or inspire someone to want to be a ranger, be a sniper. If you want to put yourself through that and do it, hey, by all means, I'll give you all the knowledge I can give you. I'll also give you all the struggles that come along with it too. Through those struggles, I think people will find way more motivation. That's just my perspective. Motivation comes in all forms. It's like a radio, actual motivation, false motivation, AM and FM. It's a radio, but I don't know. It comes in all different shapes and forms. My story is just an outlet for me to express how I feel, and people can pick up what I'm putting down, hopefully, and apply it as needed.
I got you. Got a couple of quick questions before I let you go. There's been a wave of mass shootings just this week. We're 3 weeks into the new year, and there's already 39 mass shootings. Literally 39 mass shootings. Just this week alone, there were 3 in California. What is your thoughts as somebody who's handled this weapons and heavy artillery, when you turn on the news, almost daily at this point, and you see another mass shooting?
How do I feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
My first initial thought, I think people are tired, Something's going on in America that's making people act a certain way or to be a certain way or carry out certain things. And it may be because it's just their personal perspective on it, that they feel like life is over, so I got to take out as many people as I possibly can, But no one ever looks up towards the top. The reason why people down here are struggling and feeling the way that they do, it's got to be because of the overseers, the people who have control over people's lives and circumstances, what they go through, jobs, but whatever, government. It could be any of that stuff. I think that's where we got to start looking first to make a healthy society. Like, go back to the Romans and all that, those great empires. Like, if the people are not happy, it's not because of things that they're doing down there. That's just, we're killing each other. It's because that's the only people we can immediately see right then and there. No one ever goes and looks up at the top. No one ever addresses those people, what they're doing. Why are they making people feel this way? Making circumstances be a certain way? Government and people of power have a lot of power in their hands to change a lot of people's lives or change society as a whole. They never do. I can't think of a time where, as a whole, this political system, government, whatever you want to call it, have ever been in unison. If it was in unison, we wouldn't have 2 parties, a 2-party system. So to have that separation, there's already going to be animosity and struggle for one party, at least one particular people. Then there are another. The people who don't feel as good as the one party is going to take it out on who's immediately around them. Their next door neighbor, their friend, someone down the street, whatever. I'm not saying go take the violence, to the people up top, but questions, pressure, putting feet to the fire of like, hey, maybe we should fix things here as a society as a whole to fix what's up here. To be able to do stuff like that, something's cracked up here in the head. We got to start addressing our psychology as a people before we start looking at an inanimate object. This is one guy I used to look up to. He's a Navy SEAL. He said, I can beat you in the head with a can of shit or drop a 500-pound bomb on you, but dead is dead. It's not the object that kills you, it's the individual. What made that person go out? No one wakes up and says, I'm going to go shoot up 5 people here, 10 people here. You just don't. Something's wrong with you, If you could apply that, would be overseas in war, where there's essentially, if you think about it, killing is legal. If there was one place you wanted to go out and just slaughter people, it would be in war. But you don't hear stories about that there, and everybody there has a gun. So it's the mental mindset of what's causing people to do that here in America, I think.
Understood. Speaking of guns, what do you agree or disagree with Biden wanting to ban assault weapons?
Do I agree or disagree?
Mm-hmm.
I think all the leaders that's ever tried that before did it for a reason. You look at Nazi Germany, prime example. They took their guns away first, and look what happened. When you take people's ability and power to defend themselves away, there's only one reason why you would want to do that. Sure, you can't go out and I remember Biden saying something about, well, you don't have an F-15. Neither did the Taliban. And they kicked our ass for 20 years. They had an AK and flip-flops. Those guys did it. They put up a hell of a fight. So for us, if you wanted to take those things away and off the street, we'll take them out the cops' hands, take them off the Secret Service, the people who protect the president, take all theirs away too. If no one's going to have them.
Well, I'm talking specifically about assault weapons.
They have them. Oh, yeah. They have them too. Every police department, SWAT teams, are we going to take theirs away too? The Secret Service, the people who guard the president, we got to take theirs away too. Why do they need them? Why would they? Why does a SWAT team need an AR-15, but I can't? Like, if I don't have one, why would you need one? I'm all about a fair fight, but what I don't like is fighting with my hands tied behind my back. I'm not out here saying that, I got to be able to defend myself against the government, but Constitution says otherwise. And that's why the Second Amendment was put in there from a tyrannical government. What makes the government tyrannical, one of the actions was what Hitler did, and that's take all the guns away from the people so they have no way to fight back. Every dictator that's ever did that, there's one thing that happens immediately after. History doesn't always repeat itself, but it often rhymes. After you take those guns away, you end up like all of them else, everybody else. Nazi Germany, the Jews, whatever you want to call it, Jewish community, whatever you want to call it, but they end up in that same boat. You gotta put power in our hands some type of way. And if you do take it away, then let's be universal about it. Cops can't have it. Secret Service can't have it. There's no need for it. Secret Service isn't overseas fighting Taliban, Al-Qaeda. They're protecting supposedly the president from what? People like us who won't have them. Then why do you need them?
Got you. You mentioned the Taliban a couple of times. How did you feel when the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan?
How did I feel?
Did you think that was the right thing to do?
That's like a double-edged sword almost. Like, I was ready for the war to be over. 100%. It was done. It was pointless at that point. 20 years and nothing. But it's just the manner in which we did it, the way we did it. Like, the equipment we left behind, the things that, just everything about it was, I think, a disaster. If you look back at the Vietnam War, Tet Offensive, back when those guys were pulling out, they went through the same struggles that we went through. Like I said, history doesn't rhyme, but repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. There's no difference between how we left Vietnam and how we left Afghanistan. Afghanistan, we just left all our equipment there. All the guns that we used to shoot them up, we left it. The tanks, the Humvees, the helicopters, we gave it to them. So what was all that for? We were there supposedly to clean up the area, take their stuff away, not supply them. But then I got to think back on who funded Osama bin Laden in the first place when he was fighting against the Soviets.
Yep.
One of them 3-letter agencies.
Wow. Okay, let me pick your brain on this. Sammy the Bull. Vlad actually interviewed him on his very channel. What are your thoughts on people like a Sammy the Bull? Meaning, you're a soldier through and through. You are. To the core of you, you're a soldier. But I guess in his world, La Cosa Nostra, he is as well.
Yeah.
Well documented. He has something like 19 confirmed kills. Do you look at people like him any differently than a soldier who's fighting overseas for their cause?
I guess I can't. If you are in this organization, that's your job through and through, that's what you believe your job is, then who am I to try to change your perspective and how you envision and see things? Who's to say I was right? Who's to say we're right? How would I feel if they did that to the guys in Vietnam? They felt that way. Baby killers and all this and that, no morals or whatever, spitting on guys. So who would I be if you're in that organization, let's say like the mob or whatever, and you're a foot soldier, you're a hitman, you're out there doing what you have to do, you're not killing innocent women and children. I assume not. You're going after your enemy, whoever your rival is. If that's your ideology and that's what you believe through and through, who am I to say that's right or wrong? You're just doing what you believe is right at the moment. Like we all did, or even some of them still do. Perspectives change over time. So I don't know. I wouldn't say anything bad about it. He was just, you're doing your job. If you are a foot soldier, that's what you believe, you're good at it, then that's what you are. What made us any different than we were given a specific people to go after, and that's what we did. No questions asked. No one bats an eye. I was a soldier. If you refer to that, you have an organization, you're going after your enemy because they did something or whatever. Yeah.
That's
a tough one, though. That's a tough
because excuse me?
That is a tough one.
Yeah. I have watched you, and I've looked in your eyes throughout this interview, and I've seen you go through a range of emotions, trying to make sense of your life, even as I asked you certain questions. Are you at peace? And if not, do you ever think in this lifetime you'll experience true peace?
No. I don't think so. I'm searching for it, but I think that comes the next life. I don't think the way this linear path of life works, because I do have a past, that past is always going to be there. And it's always going to be a part of my life, and I have to live with that. So I've accepted it, but to find that genuine, wholehearted peace, the same peace that my 6-year-old son has, no. Things that happen in his life when he grows up that take away that joy and that peace of him too. So it's just something we have to live with. But I don't think that's the meaning of life, to have this never-ending joy through and through, beginning and end. I think that's the purpose, the whole journey, was to experience that. If you didn't experience all the pain and all the nightmares, then you would learn nothing. There'd be no meaning. Then what's the point of even being here if everything was just supposed to be fine and dandy? So I have to accept the good and the bad.
I can't let you leave out of here without asking, what are you doing today? Like, what does life look like for you today? Are you working on anything that we should know?
I'm a full-time author now at this point, so all I do is write. Of course, we have, the autobiography, but anybody watching, if you want to go out and read something that, I really poured a lot into, took a long time, it's called The Board, Reaper the Board. I'm doing this self-published. I want to try something, that I can take on and pass down to, I guess, my kid. But it's based off of a fictional character, me. A fictional version of me, but it's called Reaper and the Board. It's Reaper the Board. But
Is it out now?
It comes out in March. Everybody can pre-order it on Amazon, and It'll be, I think, a outstanding book if you're into military thrillers or just want to support, man.
Okay. Reaper, the board, we can pre-order it right now as we speak
Yes, sir.
on Amazon. That's great, man. That's great. You know something? Do you find peace in the writing?
There you go. I love writing. I write every day. Today's my first day off in a few months now. So I write every day. My son wants to write a book, a children's book. So I do find peace in that. You can say that. It does take me away from this world, my own mind. Yeah. And make up a different one, you know?
Beautiful. So yeah, we'll definitely go out and support that book coming out in what should we say? Mid-March?
Mid-March.
Done deal. Well, Nick, this interview is everything that I thought it would be. I knew it was going to be a very, very deep, some ways emotionally draining, really trying to understand what makes a person like you tick. I knew it was going to be a deep interview. So I thank you so much for opening up and sharing your story. But more than anything, I thank you for your service, man. I truly do. And even as I asked you about peace, I hope that even if you don't find it in its entirety, I hope you find peace in the sense that there are people in this country that truly appreciate all that you have given, all that you sacrificed, all that you put on the line so that we can wake up and do all of the things we do and have the freedoms that we have. I thank you and I salute you, my brother. And I wish you all the blessings that life have to offer.
Yeah, I want to appreciate you, man. I thank you for having me on. I've watched DJ Vlad in this channel for years, long time. So it's weird to even be sitting down with you, man, having this conversation, but I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. One love, brother.